Hi, everybody. This is Susan Thomas. I'm one of the librarians working with the community. I'd like to do a very short video about controlled vocabulary. I'm going to talk about identifying mesh terms and CINAHL subject headings. So let me click on databases from the Pace University Library's homepage and click on the letter P for PubMed. It's important to always access PubMed through the Pace library system because we link to full text. Uh, Most of that full text material is not available on the government website. Normally, when you go to PubMed, you start typing in, something and looking for articles right away. But we're not doing that. We are looking for the mesh terms. We're building our search right now. We're not yet searching for articles. So I'm going to come down here under Explore and click Mesh Database. And let me share my slideshow for a second here. Just to quickly provide an overview of, controlled vocabulary is the agreed upon terminology used to categorize something. Information professionals will read an article in PubMed and they will index it. And part of that indexing is putting all of the information about the article, the authors, their affiliation, abstract, year, all that stuff. But also mesh terms are attached to describe the article. Similarly, in our personal lives, we use hashtags in Instagram, for example, so that everybody can click on the hashtag and find the same material. So really that's a good comparison, I think. In PubMed, we're using the medical subject headings thesaurus to identify controlled vocabulary. And at the bottom is just a quick example of a tree where you can see like a broad term and how it becomes more narrow until it has the most specific or narrow term at the bottom there. In CINAHL, everything is the same really in theory, but some of the terms are different. Many of the terms are the same in both databases, but you will see differences. Like this is a pretty significant difference. There's a new mesh term called pregnant people, but in CINAHL, the closest thing to pregnant person at all is expectant mothers. So when I'm building my search strategy, I start with a table like this, and I basically started with my PICO question and then sort of fine-tuned it for my purposes. And I have these columns here. And what's unusual in this case is that I'm going to be excluding a certain population rather than searching for a particular population, just in case you're wondering when you look at that. But I'll talk about that more next week. But right now, I'm just going to take a couple of keywords from this table and identify the controlled vocabulary that matches that term. So I'm going to start with screening, and I'm going to go back to PubMed, to the mesh database, and I'm going to type in screening. This is kind of a tough one. Typically, when you type in something here, you get pretty quickly find a match. But here, I have 33 results, and my first, batch of results, they're actually not what I'm looking for. This mass screening term seems like it might be relevant, but it's actually more about these large scale screenings of the general population, sort of like, screening people for COVID. There's something more specific about what we're doing with screening with BMI or a PHQ. So I want to keep looking and see if there's something that looks like a better match. And I'm oversimplifying it by moving quickly, but you would spend some time looking. And I'm going to say that the diagnostic screening programs mesh term is a good match because it's about rapid, easy application to a target population. So diagnostic screening programs would be added to my table, and I will show you what that looks like. here it is in the obesity search, and it's also here in the depression search. So I have my keyword that I will search for, but I also have my mesh term. And then I have a couple other keywords and also another mesh term, early diagnosis. Now, let me do one more search for a mesh term. Go back. And I'm not using this search builder, but I'm going to clear that box out. And I will do pregnant just to show what happens. So even though I have 60 results, in this case, it's pretty obvious that I'm looking for, well, maybe it's not obvious, but I want to exclude pregnant people from my search ultimately, these searches that we're doing. So this is the best match because it's about a person. And you can see by clicking on it that this term was, usually says when it was introduced, but I know this was introduced recently. I see, 2024. And I would add this to my chart. So go back again and show you that I have pregnant people listed here for mesh. And CINAHL, the term is expectant mothers. So let me show you what that looks like in CINAHL. So I'm going to go back to the databases and click on the letter C for CINAHL, which is the Cumulative Index to Nursing and Allied Health Literature. And again, if I were searching for articles, I would start typing in this box, but I'm not. I'm going into the subject headings database, which is a sub database in CINAHL. And I'm going to put in pregnant and browse. And it says women, pregnant, use expectant mothers. So that's the CINAHL subject heading that I'm going to use. And just to do one more example, let's do screening. And it says use health screening. And I could look at some of the other screenings to see if anything is relevant. I'm going to click on health screening just to make sure it seems like the right term. It shows some of the subheadings under health screening. And if I click on this little bubble here, I can get the scope note. And that might help me decide whether or not to use that term. So I hope this helps. I just wanted to quickly show you that you are building a search strategy that includes a table. We're going to do this for you. We're even going to run the search next week, but ultimately your task is going to be to look at the results, titles and the abstracts, and then apply inclusion or exclusion criteria to decide whether or not a particular article is something that you want to pursue reading. We're looking for research that will either challenge or support the continued use of BMI as a screening tool for obesity, and likewise for PHQ and screening for depression. So we're looking for new research, and we'll talk more about it next week. I should end this now before it gets too long. All right, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye.